recording in progress. And so if you do exactly what I just said, you'll be liberated. It'll be perfect. That's just for the recording, yeah? So I'm so glad that you found the secret ingredient to Buddhist practice. It's really incredible, isn't it? Yeah. So, so you've got it. It's awesome. Yeah. No, sorry. So remember, when that moment comes where you're about to say, this also doesn't work, that this habit of normal is trying to keep you boxed in. At least that's how it's worked for me. I get a kind of power now by pushing through the change in a particular way. And the foundation of that is know your practices and what they're used for. In this particular situation where everything is being dismantled, in that moment of change where you're trying to change and your body's like, no, don't do it. Run away or stay the same. Don't look at it over there. To me, it's a sign of like the undercurrent of a massive change that's about to come. It's normal's last desperate attempt to stay in control. It's the walls of the glass ceiling trying to stay because they're threatened. That's what I think now. That's what that adds to me. I'm like, oh, you're scared, you bastard normal. And all your shitty habits that have had me suffer, you're scared. So all of a sudden I've reassociated that fear of change to knowing what happens when you actually change, which is you renew. You're different. And different needs rewiring, because it's the first time in that different state where you would look at your practice and go, I'll sit in meditation regardless. I'll drag my ass to the cushion regardless. Or I'll review why the hell meditate to return to the real purpose of meditation. Maybe I got lost along the way, but I'm re-engaging. I'm not disengaging from the fundamentals. And so to drag your ass to the cushion when your mind is bursting with normal is the hardest thing. That's what I mean by your body is saying, don't do it. It's better if you have a cup of hot coffee, Hector, or chai, sorry. And it's way better if you just go on TikTok because then you can see all the happy people. Or just eat a sandwich. So I can call you a fat bastard later, but don't listen to that. Right? So normal will have you stay in your normal. That's what its job is. We're wired for it, neurologically conditioned to stay in that state. And change is disruptive to that. And disruption we're afraid of. And there's something that your practice can give you to invite you to lean into the discomfort. Because that's where real change happens. And how does it happen? The dissonance physically first. It feels yucky to even say it, right? Drag your ass to the cushion. Drag your ass to the cushion. Intellectually, logic. Know why that's super important. Because where we put our attention, that's what expands. Wherever you place your attention on, that expands. And so in that change process, if you let your attention sit on, you can't do it, don't, what makes you think you can, don't drag your ass to the cushion, please don't drag your ass to the cushion, have that coffee. If you lean on that, that's what your mind amplifies as a good reason to do the action. And if you drag your ass to the cushion and you begin to focus on, why is this cushion going to change my life? And is this act of change, the discomfort of pushing myself through the practice, is that a bad thing or a good thing? The body says it's a bad thing. Oh, that's just an old habit. What's good about it? What's awesome about it? What's transforming it about it? What started me meditating in the first place? Have I ever had states of bliss in meditation? Has meditation given me insight that helped me work the world? And the more you lean into that, where you place your attention, it grows. And for that, you need an arsenal. You need an arsenal of weapons to resist normal. Is that, do you hear what I'm saying? Like, that's just one practice. Yoga is another one. The philosophical practice about the preliminaries and understanding karma and emptiness and compassion and relationship to a teacher and the discipline of debate and all those practices which we at Three Tools have been studying in depth, they're even harder. So that's why you need an arsenal to help you manage those moments. The shortcut to what happens when you manage that moment is you don't progress a little bit. You progress this much when you resist a really strong tidal force to stay normal. Just the resistance is the kind of FU to normal. Saying, no, I can take this. Yeah? And for the yogis and those that can hear it, it's like the winds in your sail when you're sailing. When the winds are in your favor, you do everything you can to understand and amplify your practice. Everything. Don't be distracted by the pretty sights and the easy sailing. When the winds are in your favor and things are working good, that's when you want to build your arsenal in your sailing ship. Because the inertia that you'll get for that will help you when the winds turn away from you. When the orbit gets close to that darkness again, which will happen. So there's a couple of strategies, right? So easy when the winds are working. Yeah. When the winds are in your favor, easy, right? Do your service, connect to your teachers, meditate strongly, go a little deeper, like expand your inner world when the winds are easy. Lucky bastard if you have some winds that have been easy in your practice. Not everyone on the planet gets time to practice, let alone favorable winds. So then what happens when the winds change? Two strategies, okay? If the winds are now coming at you and they're against you, Master Shantideva would say, drop the sails, like stop sailing for a little bit, let the inertia carry you forward, right? Like drop, you don't have to like lean so hard against your practice. Get your ass to the cushion, sit there for 5 minutes. Even if you don't meditate, you've done a little act of resistance to normal. Well, that's enough. That's a powerful seed. Yeah. So for those of you that, if nothing else fails, do that. Drop the sails, right? Tone down the effort. Relax. It'll pass. The storm will pass. Okay. For those of you who don't feel you've got enough time to do that, or you've got strong enough inertia and a stronger arsenal, you can zigzag your way against the wind and it will push you forward. But that's a lot of wind. Yeah, that's a lot of resistance, and it will take a toll on the ship. But you'll move faster than the wind, leaning into it. And so I'm not recommending that to everyone. I hope the metaphors make sense to people. Yeah, I know Rachel's like, I'm pushing forward, zigzagging at double speed. I know that's Rachel's approach. Yeah, I've seen it. Same with Angela. Oh, I see you there, Angela. You're like, trouble, let me lean into trouble. Yeah? It'll take a toll, right? You can't help but be hit by the wind and the storm. So, okay, good, doing good. There is some, if your practice worked at some point, then your practice work can work ongoing. Don't get fooled by it not working because the wind's moved, okay? Don't get locked in the box by your misunderstanding reaction to the practice not working and thinking it's just like everything else. If your practice worked and for a moment you saw everything, you can still see everything. Now the question is, can you sustain it? Even through the orbits or the winds that come your way. So here's a couple of extra tips. You should know what you're practicing. You should know it in your heart without books. You should do it. You should know it alone. without companions. You're stronger together with companions, but you should get to a point where you are certain about certain things. And so there's a spiritual development that happens. It could take up to 12 years, some of the scriptures say, where you're studying stuff. It could take up to 12 years to get out of the little box and experience everything. I think 12 years is nothing. Know what you're practicing. And in the simplest way, at least in the Buddhist worldview of what to practice, is found in the Lamson Namsum, the three principal paths. You should know what renunciation is. You should know what it feels like to have true renunciation. And renunciation doesn't mean what I used to think it meant. Renunciation means understanding clearly that inside the box behavior will give you inside the box results. That thinking I'm going to get happy by getting more of this and less of that is actually not going to work. And if it does, it's just short term. Something else behind the matrix is making that work. There's something more. Actually, we were doing in meditation teacher training a whole weekend on neuroscience, and afterwards I saw this statistic about how limited our experience of everything actually is. The range that the human eye can see of light in general, the light spectrum, is 0.0034% of what is light. We can see 0.0034%. Everything that you're looking at right now is less than 1% of what is to be seen. And we operate as if we know everything. The same for the other senses. And so we act in accord with a less than 1% of reality, and you're going to get a result equal to what you're working with. But intellectually, logic, reasoning, you could understand that there is more light than the limited spectrum that we're capable of seeing. And when you do that, you might be able to use other light spectrums to detect things in your world, like science has found. And we can do the same. The power of meditation. Look at the capacity of the mind to experience more than what your finite limited experience of the world is. That would be to Buddha. That would be to wake up. So know what to practice. Number one, renunciation. Get over thinking that if you move the job and the career and the boyfriend and the girlfriend and the dress code and the whatever beauty products, that somehow you'll get happy and sustainably happy. You will not. You just will not. And thinking that you will is the cause of suffering. Understand that every moment you do feel bliss when you fall in love with someone, although that someone is reflecting back at you, your experience of bliss is the thing that gives you bliss. It was in you all along. And then you just found someone to love. Marina. Yeah? I did it. That just came out. I just had to say love. There you go. Yeah. Nemo sounded funnier. Thank you, Marina. And so see, you can still be in love, but now you know where love comes from. It's nothing to do with her, sorry. Yeah? And yet it's everything to do with her because she's your perfect reflection for that. So you hang around Marina not because you are wanting to keep your love to yourself, which leads to jealousy and all the other things, but because there's something in that being that is your perfect mirror for your ultimate love, and that's okay. You can still love them, but you know where it comes from. And so if Marina needs to change or go or something, you still can be in love. Someone else said to me, was it grief? What was it? You said it. Grief
and praise are the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm going to say grief and love are the same thing. Yeah, just to add that, because.
Yeah, let me remember. So it was a from a Mayan culture.
Yeah.
You're talking about how when somebody passes or somebody's gone from your life, grieving them is the same as loving them because they were there.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're the same, right? So grieving and love. I don't know if you heard it. So know what you practice. In Buddhism, it says you can't really enter the path unless you've given up the old way of getting things, because that's what created suffering in the first place. Attachment to things you like and rejection of things you don't like because you think they have the power to make you happy or unhappy is the thing that makes you unhappy. So drop that. Stop looking for the perfect girlfriend or boyfriend. But that doesn't mean don't have a girlfriend or boyfriend, okay? It's this fine line that you got to understand. Secondly, whatever happiness you want for you, you're not the only bastard on the planet with suffering. Can you try and think, if I get happy getting these things, maybe they'll be happy too. So I should be happy when they get good things rather than jealous. Maybe I should try and help other people get what they want and not get what they don't want, because I'm not the only bastard suffering. So this is called bodhicitta, right? The wish to wake up myself so others can wake up too, summarized. That's the second of it. And so know that practice. What are those practices? They're compassion practices, they're loving kindness practices, they're meditation practices, a whole bunch of things. And the last thing in the Lamson Namson, the shortest summary of the Buddhist path, is understand what wisdom truly means. The wisdom which perceives outside the box. The wisdom which perceives reality. Ultimate reality, not just 0.003%. The wisdom that understands, at least intellectually, that if the world is not coming at me this way, if my experience of the world, which is my world, is coming this way, then something inside of me is causing this. And if it's bad, I better fix it in here first. Doesn't matter what I do out there. Other than what I do out there gets reflected in here and projects next out there. The wisdom that understands that things don't have the nature they appear to have, the wisdom that perceives emptiness, is what wisdom means here. The wisdom that understands that the implication of that, using logic and reasoning, that's why I'm talking Ayn Rand, right? The logic that understands that will then come to the conclusion, intellectually first, that if my projection is creating my world, and what I do, say, and think creates the projector images, then everything, without exception, the outer world and the inner world, is pregnant with infinite potential to be everything. If you get that, then something that used to harm you could serve you, could teach you, could awaken you. Something that everything could be anything. And you could be walking around Manhattan going, oh my God, this is such a stunning place, and oh my goodness, look at the rat in the subway. It's so precious. They have wildlife in the subway. and or you could be walking around New York going, I hate that sound. I can't stand it. It's the same New York. It's the same time. The only difference is the mind perceiving it. Change the mind, change reality. Be the change you want to see in the world. Gandhi. So, know your practices with unshakable logic. That's why the study part is vital. Know them with unshakable logic, because that's the arsenal you need when the glass walls begin to creep in. You need to be able to remember, and for three jewelers, that means the pen thing. If you remember the pen thing, there's no nature, the nature comes from me. Okay, you've got that logic, unshakable, it's clear. You apply it to this, that, and you can apply it to everything. So know some of the practices and know it with unshakable logic. That takes study. Study when the winds are in your favor or when the storms are calm. Nearly there. Woo, 2 minutes, here we go. The next thing, try and collect in your arsenal the unshakable visceral experiences that you've had in your practice, the moments of bliss in meditation. Like, damn, I got that. Wrote it down, remember it, habituate it in your mind. You're going to need it as a quick draw at some point, easily accessible. Moments where you truly felt compassion. Someone you didn't like, you all of a sudden love them. Like, oh, remember, my mind did that. My mind did that. My mind did that. The practice got my mind. Like, build an arsenal, proof for yourself, unshakable proof. I did have that experience. For me, that's the TED Talk video of the Angry Boss. The very first time, 3 months worth of dedicated practice where I flipped a shitty situation into the most extraordinary experience. Nobody can take it away from me. It's visceral now. It's internalized. I go to that thing for refuge often when my moon comes around. Another thing, expect more suffering. It's coming. So don't be shocked when things don't work. You're like, oh my God, things don't work. They weren't working all the way along. That's what got you into the practice in the first place. Like, I meditated 2 days. The world is perfect. It's not. Yeah. Laksam Namdak, take personal responsibility. 2 minutes. Here it is. I'll do it. Seneca said, there are more. What did he say? Hold on. We suffer more in our imagination than reality. Our fears give us more suffering than the real experience. Think about that. And then think about meditation, going at the very deep core of your mind that creates all those narratives, and you can shift those narratives. And then I would say internalize some of the core practices that have everything in them as best as you can. For me, that's the Heart Sutra. The Heart Sutra is a powerful text on wisdom, and I can recite it half asleep. Yeah? And what it does is it gives meaning to every experience inside and outside of me, and it reminds me of the wisdom of emptiness, and it reminds me not to be attached to the Buddhist path, and it reminds me that I'm not alone, and I could die with that, and da-da-da. Yeah? Next, seeds take time, so don't expect that all your practices today must give you a result next week. That's not how it works. It never worked that way. And if seeds take time, and your minds are forever projecting little seeds ripening, we're not doing that in Buddhist practice. We're trying to get out of the box of samsara. We're talking about global reforestation. And that takes a longer time. You're changing entire forests of perceptions in your mind, so be patient. Get some unshakable logic about why the path works, the path you're on. Get some visceral memories, your arsenal, to combat when next time normal comes knocking at your practice. Yeah. Remember not to throw the baby out with the bath water. Zigzag your way against the suffering. And then I'll leave you with this, because at the end of the day, there's 4 fierce river currents we can't avoid, but we can change our experience of those, and those experiences can be ultimately liberating, partially liberating, or entrapping. And these experiences are, you've already had at least 2 of these, okay? 3 of them, sorry. These are called the 4 fierce river currents. Birth, you've already had that, hopefully. Aging, I've got that one. Sickness and death, they're coming. And what your mind does with them is what your practice is for. And I want to talk a little about the last one before we go. Because if you think about it, without the fear, death is really the ultimate practice. Imagine death. It's an extraordinary event that happens to one. It must be extraordinary to watch everything that you held meaning to, that you had power with, begin to drop. Think of it objectively. Think of it outside the box, not inside the box. To begin to see the entire fabrication of your universe begin to disappear. It's like an extraordinary dissolution. What an event. And to not engage with it with fear. Part of all these wake-up practices are to say, what's your response to the thing that's coming, to the dissolution of all your work history, or your work achievements, all your fashion moments, all your loved ones and relationships. And you can feel, right, the attachment in the box, the normal going, oh, but I want to hold on. You can't. Okay, so fighting isn't going to help. But you can change the way you engage with it, with your mind. That's what these practices can do. And the biggest thing, last thing I'll leave you with, is that the thing you'll eventually end up dropping is identity. Levels and layers of identity. And so to see a world fighting for my identity versus your identity is like the ultimate, it's hurtful to watch, because we're all going to have to say goodbye to whatever many masks of identity we put on. And that must be an extraordinary thing, because the biggest identity you take off is the identity that I'm in that box, that I'm locked in that thing with a glass ceiling. And even for a moment, you must at that time be everything, without perceptions of me and you, without perceptions of us and them, without perceptions of liking and disliking. Consciousness is there without limits for a second. And depending on what you put in your arsenal is what comes next after that moment. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you for listening to my rant, and I hope you find the power in your practice to make it grow and reach other prisms in the same prism that you're in. When you step outside the box, you'll see all the other boxes going, oh damn, come out. Okay, thank you online, and we're going to hang out a little in person. A couple of announcements. Thursday night, Way of the Peaceful, Heart of the Warrior Saint, not Dan Millman, with Sarah and Earl. Incredible depth about emptiness, the key that will unlock all these things. Without that, without wisdom, everything else becomes nominal. Any other things? Retreat? Fundraiser, here we go. Retreat coming up February. Silent meditation retreat with Sarah and Earl in Nicaragua, February 19th to the 26th. Stunning location and incredible practice. Tibetan Buddhist purification ritual with Sam Wilensky, who's here on Friday, this Friday. Yeah, cool. So that's going to be awesome. This practice of purification was looking at the corner of your prison that's got that garbage narrative and actively chipping away at it so it doesn't come up when things don't work. There was one more thing. I'm only going to do this Tuesday nights for maybe 3 more weeks, I think it is. I finish the first week of December, and then I'm going to go on retreat. So I only get to do this, I think it's 3 or 4 more weeks, I don't know exactly. So I hope you come to those, and then we have a rest from each other. It's a blessing to see each and every one of you. If you have specific questions, you can use the code there, the QR code, and I'll try and answer them. Marlos, it's nice to see you. Hi. Okay, thanks everyone. Love. Enjoy your minds outside the prison. Bye. Thanks Rachel for joining. Bye Koan. Frankie, love you. Bye Caitlin and Alexandria. Arun, I'm going to eat all by myself now. Anna, go to bed. It's like 3 in the morning. What's the time? 4. Go to bed, please. Bye. Bye Monique. Bye Anna. Anthony and Lily. And Ninon. Bye. Okay, bye everyone. Good night.